Wow, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Talk about the lowest IQ of low IQ moves. Imagine being Carmelo Anthony and receiving $500,000 in legal donations from the woke left in order to defend yourself from accusations that you murdered somebody at a track event. Imagine being that guy blowing all of the money on cars and houses and then having to get a public defender. Wow. Wow, unbelievable. They really thought they would get away with this. Like, people really thought that he would be, like, free from all, like, allegations because of, like, the victim's, like, fucking pussy-ass dad. They really thought that nothing would happen after he murdered somebody. And it seems as if the entire thing is coming crashing down, right? The biggest grift ever has just completely collapsed. It doesn't matter how much money you give these people. It doesn't matter what happens. You aren't going to be able to protect them from their own actions. And this is a situation, I think, in spite of all the benefits he received, all the money he got, all like the damage control from the media, from the woke left, Carmelo Anthony should be going to prison and should spend the rest of his life there. It's definitely exciting to see, but it really shouldn't be the only time this happens, because we have seen too many times over the past decade where people like this commit some kind of crazy crime, and then, people try and damage control for them, blaming their home life or their background or, like, circumstances, when in reality, they're just criminals that need to be dealt with in the most brutal way possible. Like, I do think this is, like, the major societal issue we're facing right now, where we don't need to reform these people, we need to put a bullet in them. That's just the reality of it. If you're a murdering psychopath, who kills people at track meets, you should get a bullet on the spot. Like, that's just the reality of it. Maybe you need to be penciled in, and they have to schedule it, to make sure there isn't some contrived circumstance. But, like, yeah, if you do something like this and everyone knows it, like, you need to get the rope. I do think this is something we do need to acknowledge more, something we do need to talk about more, something that we do need to address more, that this isn't an isolated incident. Like, the primary thing about this specific situation is how exaggerated and ridiculous it actually was. It's like something out of an anime, right? Why exactly did we allow it to get this far? Why did the judge try to, like, give him some leniency? Yeah, he was allowed out on bail, I think. Like, why did this happen? That in and of itself was completely unacceptable. Why was he allowed to have donations to begin with? If this was a reasonable person, all those donations should have gone into, like, I don't know, an OJ-style dream team that could have gotten him off with, could have led him to getting away with murder, right? If he was a reasonable person, right? Like, considering the sheer amount of, like, allowances he received, he should have been able to get away with this. But, like, because he's such a failure, because he can't even do the simplest things to take advantage of his situation, it all just came crashing down. Like, he wanted to live like a king, and everything just came crashing down. Definitely definitely glad to see this individual be left with a public defender, and interesting to see like him ask for more money online. After like showing off his newfound wealth. It's definitely a really interesting situation to see unfold, because you just know that like back in the day this wouldn't be something that people have known about, like nobody would have talked about it, where the money was actually going. And we have a pretty clear idea, like in spite of like all the copes, all the damage control, all of like the attempts at gaslighting us. Like, we all know that money went into cars and renting a house. Not even like buying the house. They rented it. Like, his parents just seem to like have pocketed the money and sent him to prison. I don't. Very definitely interesting to see. But I think the most important thing about this is that like this is not an isolated incident. This kind of thing happens all the time, and we're supposed to just allow it to happen. And I do think that it really does need to be condemned. Not only for like the perpetrators, but for the enablers. If anything, I think the enablers should be getting like criticized more. Like that's my big thing about this. The thing that I think really sets this apart from most other cases is that like one of the big like advocates, like the boomer to end all boomers, the alpha omega boomer, like the victim's dad, trying to like get people to forgive like the victim for killing his son. Nobody respects that guy. Not the perpetrator, not like people involved in the case, not like people like me who are just observing it, right? Like, nobody respects that guy, and yeah, that it should get a lot worse for him. Like that's kind of my thinking. If you like just completely refuse to face reality and try and like I don't see like try and like defend a criminal, yes, you should, you need to be condemned by society. That's the big thing. I do think this case showcases is that like we shouldn't have any tolerance for enablers at all. And I do hope this is the beginning of that becoming like mainstream accepted, just how like toxic and insane this kind of thinking actually is. Hopefully this is like the beginning of the end of like the boomer mentality of of worshiping criminals. So I want this to be the first step forward into fixing this specific societal issue. I'm optimistic that this is the beginning of the end of that mindset.